Good morning. Thank you for that beautiful song, Ashley. I accept the power of God. I accept the love of God. I accept the will of God, for it directs me. I've got my sexy voice on today, so I don't want to cause any strain for any of you, but I'll speak slowly so that you can understand me. I am delighted to be here. When Marianne called me about a month or two ago to invite me to be here, she wanted to know then, what are you going to talk about? And I thought, well, wait a minute. I just decided to come. Let me think about this. And took me a little time because I thought, well, God, I guess there's something you want me to share, and I want to know what that is. I kind of wanted to know how you were vibing over here, like what's happening with you all. But we know when God speaks to the moment of now, yes? And I thought you people all know how to employ the 12 powers that Phil Moore has taught us. So I thought, what can I teach them about walking in sync with the divine? Well, I've come up with a little something, so I'm going to share from that space. My name is Gina Pearson, and I feel like my purpose in life is to inspire others to total freedom. Now, I'm very coiffed right now, but I have lived this kind of life. Just busy, just doing, I think we come to earth trying to figure out, who am I? What am I here for? And that question becomes more serious later on in life. But we come, we're young, we're free-spirited, we want to play, we want to have fun. We start maturing, then we get competitive, and we want to do it right, and there is a right way to do it, and I'm going to be the one to know how to do it. I'm going to be the one to bring it. I got stuck in that phase for a long time until it wore me out. And learning how to be competitive, I was the sixth of 9 children. Listen, you can't blame me. I came into the world trying to find my place and, Mom, what's up? Hello. I mean, there was never a lot of time. She was busy. I remember seeing her in the morning. She was over the pot cooking. We'd get ready to go to school. She's still cooking lunch. I come home. She's cooking dinner. I mean, I would find anything to do with her so I could be there. I learned to cook. I learned to clean. I mean, I adopted the name Cinderella. Imagine that. She was a doer, was she not? So I learned to do all of my life. I got stuck in people pleasing. And as I started growing, I know that I'm ageless, if we come out of the illusion, yet sometimes my body talks to me and reminds me that, the days of zipping and zapping are really over. And I really, find no joy in that. I find the joy in understanding and knowing that I'm enough. And that's a huge place of growth for me. So I'm speaking today about what I'm discovering about walking in sync with the divine. Because my focus as a young woman, and like maybe some of you, was always external. What could I get? What could I add to myself? I was an image consultant for a while. I thought that was the way. If I looked, had the right image, I could fit in. If I learned to speak, I could fit in. If I learned to do whatever was there to do, I could fit in. Until I got to the place of knowing none of that really mattered. And so I'm coming to understand that the greatest aspect of who I say I am in life is that from that space of that withinness that is in me. And so I'm trying it on these days to bring the expression of the divine to the table. Not like Gina has to have it together, I need to look a certain way, but that there's a greater expression in who I say I am that is expressed in my way of being with you, of what I bring to the table. What are the possibilities that I could speak to the moment of now and create magic? What would that look like? So I am discovering, I was flying to New York on Wednesday. My daughter is in school in New York. 21-year-old, pursuing her dreams. And I left here that morning. Landing into LaGuardia, the captain comes on in the voice of female. I was a little excited. This is your captain speaking. We have been put on a 20-minute hold. There is very low visibility in New York. We are unable to land. I take a deep breath. Cool. I'll keep you informed in the next 10 minutes. Excuse me. This is about my body recalibrating. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. When we are walking in sync with the divine, sometimes our bodies have to catch up with what Spirit is doing in our lives. So that's what's happening here. The pilot came back on in 10 minutes and said, we have been diverted to Washington Dulles Airport to get refueled. Please put your seatbelts on. There'll be a bumpy ride going down. Click. A little tighter. I start breathing. I remember traveling with Carlton years ago, and we were landing in Louisiana, and it was so bumpy. I began praying in tongues really loud, and he's like, don't use my name when you travel, because I get loud and anxious. Right, this time I was not going to do that. I was sitting next to strangers, so I was going to be calm. I'm practicing this thing. I recalled every time I say yes to doing one of these things, and I come up with a title, right, about what I think Spirit wants to say, I have to back up and kind of walk this thing out so I can have something to deliver, right? So here I am sitting next to a flight attendant. So I felt like I was safe, right, because she understands this. And we're going to land into Dulles. It was a little choppy. They gave us a few minutes outside of the plane. We get back in. We are released now to fly on to LaGuardia. Now listen, we are landing in LaGuardia, and we were warned it is going to be choppy. And there I go into that space. I'm walking in sync with the divine, right? I am taking on a greater expression in life, expressing the divine and not who Gina Pearson is. So I began to start using my meditation. I'm at peace. I am relaxed. Creating this landing, right, and breathing deep. I wasn't going to cause a scene here. I wanted to hold her, arm, but I thought she might not like that. And do you notice there's never any disagreement when you're flying and there are issues? Everybody is helpful. How can I help you? We're smiling. I love you. Yes. There's never a war in a plane when there's an issue like that. We're all in one. Well, there I was. Gina was at play here. Gina was going to land this plane. Gina was going to contribute her energy to make the difference for that pilot. And I noticed the judgment in me. When the female pilot came on, I thought, can she handle this? And then I took a deep breath. I'm like, look, this is not a time to question that. She's probably a Me Too girl. And then I began to go, you go, girl, land this plane. And when I realized there Gina was, bringing all of Gina's energy to the scene, I stopped and I took a deep breath and I thought, okay, let me exchange this. Here I am. This plane is violently landing, and what am I going to do? If it's my time to go, I had decided I'm ready. I mean, everything else will work out, whether I wasn't going to return home. I was just playing this all really, really quickly. And then I began to say to myself, I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. And I closed my eyes. And then I saw this beam of light in front of the plane. I'm like, God, wait a minute. What are you saying? Is this plane going to land or crash? And I felt the Spirit say, I'm making a way out of no way. I've gone before you. That was huge for me in my walk, in my understanding what being in sync with the divine is, letting go and allowing. So I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to waste a lot of energy. I had already been up since 4 o'clock. I knew when I hit the ground, I was going to be moving quickly. And I took a deep breath. And yes, we landed into LaGuardia Airport, but we did it. And that was a huge leap of trust for me. I fly a lot. And I have those encounters a lot, and I'm anxious a lot. So I'm learning how to be with what is, the way it is, and the way it isn't, and trust that in any moment, because I live in possibility, I can bring what is wanted and needed. And so I want to encourage you, if you, and again, I know I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. When you live your life from the space of a possibility, if joy is what needed, you can bring that in any moment of now. And so I did. I landed, got to New York. It was a wonderful time. And here I'm back. I was back the next day, considering what it was I was going to share with you in my opportunity to be with you today. And so I want to be an encouragement to you that the beginning of your life really hasn't even started. It's now in this very moment. There's still much more of what can be expressed through you. And what does that look like? What does the expression of the divine look like in the expression of a Jan or a Harriet or a Patty or a Cheryl? What does that look like? I want to encourage you to begin to place a demand upon the Spirit of God for the greater expression. I know we know these terms. I mean, I love coming to Unity. I've been doing Unity since 2005. Actually, when I was growing up, the little Unity missalettes were laying down in my grandmother's all around her house, and when I was learning to read, they had the big print, she was a senior citizen. So I learned to love those little books. I was raised Catholic, but I noticed when I started reading those, I had a new understanding. It was like alive to me. And so I'm discovering for myself, the space of understanding the power of God within me, the power that I have, that is the expression of the divine, not Gina. I grew up, like I said, becoming competitive, and now that I'm in the more mature stages of life, I'm having a different appreciation of that eternal isness that is me, and it's so freeing to let go and allow. I was make it happen kind of woman, and now I'm learning how just to allow life to flow through me. It's much easier. It's an easier way of being. It's less restrictive. So when we walk in sync with divine, we must know that nothing is ever wrong. We bump up against things, we hit things, we trip, we fall. It's because we are recalibrating. We are getting to know, what are you speaking, Spirit of the living God? Speak and have your way in me. So there's a realignment. There's an allowing and aligning that's happening all the time. So I want to encourage you, when you're up against something and it looks like it's not going your way, Spirit is redirecting you to even a greater expression. And then what happens? We go within to find out what's wanted and needed. Can you imagine was it Adam who walked through the garden in the cool of the day? He had his swagger on. He was not in a rush. He just was able to be with what is the way it is. Imagine living life like that. That's a new way of consideration for me. Trying to get 70 things done on my to-do list and have it all done yesterday or 15 minutes ago. The pressure in life that we put on ourselves, it's so unnecessary. So I'm inviting you to consider trusting what is wanting to emerge through you. What is the expression of the divine that is you? What is the kingdom of God that is wanting to be experienced through you and as you in the earth? What does that look like? Place a demand upon that. I mean, I know some of you are in your mature states of life and you think, oh, I've done this and I've done that. But there's so much more. If you left today, what would go undone? What would be left undone? Who has yet to hear you say, I love you? There's a stretch you can bring upon yourself to be that greater expression, to have life be different because of the contribution you are, that you still have yet to make. What does that look like? And no one can answer that but you. No one can do what there is to do that you've come to life to do, to deliver, but you. So my encouragement today is to place a demand upon that. This time of spiritual revolution and expansion, the seeds have already been put inside of you. And what do seeds do? They only grow. They only expand. So there's seeds of greatness in you. There's seeds of dimensions that you never even knew of. When I moved here 25 years ago, the name of the church that Carlton was pastoring was called Higher Dimension. And I began to know that was the call of my heart. That was the cry of my spirit. So every challenge that I came upon, every possibility that was yet to discover, I contributed to a higher dimension. Now, that did not come with some snot and tears, because the challenge had been much greater, but that's what your life is for. That's what you're here to grow into, to rise up into, because the more you say yes to the will of God that Ashley spoke about, the more you find out that the provision has already been made for you. You are equipped with everything to deliver the essence of God that is you. Does anybody believe what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about because you're walking it. I know that you are. And so as you consider, there's a syncopation, there's a rhythm to walking with the divine. Now, when we do it our way, all there is our way. It's a very limited way of being in the world. But when we really yield ourselves to understanding what does it look like to take on that level of the eternal conversation that our life is. Listen, I had a girlfriend to tell me recently, you will be 60 in a few years. What is the difference your life going to make? One of my accountability partners said that to me, and it woke me up. Because in the flesh we get tired and we think, what else is there? So I'm in a dance now of exchanging literally my will for the will of God. And, I told her, I said, okay, well, I'm going to get dressed tomorrow and be naked. Imagine that. I leave here today to go to the premiere of the movie that has been written about Carlton's life, but at the time I was his wife, so the movie gets to be written about me too. And it's an exciting opportunity. And so yet I'm realizing, what does Gina have to give? What does Gina have to offer? So I'm willing to exchange that to know the bigger conversation is being had. And it has really nothing to be with me. What's the love that can be expressed through Gina? What's the forgiveness that can be expressed through Gina? What's the joy that can be expressed through Gina? So there's an exchange going on, and I want to invite you, wherever you are in your life, to really begin to place a demand upon that expression that is you, and be willing to surrender in that syncopation, in that rhythm with the divine. There's got to be a willingness. And this is what I'm discovering for myself. You'll get to choose for you. But I want you to know it's a place of unending joy. It's from glory to glory that we go. And it's all been mapped out before us. When I saw that beaming light before the plane, I thought, okay, you got this. So I want you to be encouraged wherever you are. I want you to just begin. The Bible encourages us to wake up from our slumber. The Bible says we must be born again. For years I struggled with that. What did that mean? But I'm understanding being born again to that true expression. And then trying it on. And then being that expression in the earth. Awaken to that. Many times, we have dreams, but they become nightmares if we don't wake up. So to begin to see what is that divine expression. It's really difficult because we think this is who we are. We're not the body. And aren't we glad as we age and have the challenges of what the body brings? I'm glad to know this is not it for me. And there's the invisible aspect of who I am is really, what I get to try on and bring to life. Isn't that exciting? Imagine that. Isn't that exciting? So the Bible encourages us, to walk in integrity, to walk in the Spirit, to walk in truth. Excuse me. It's really, it's a race for the expression of the eternal. It's a greater conversation to have if you would dare try it on. If we could let go of the limitations of the encasement of this body. I sit with hospice patients, and it's so interesting to sit and watch them take their last breath. I took it on because I was afraid of death. And I couldn't imagine, growing up and being free and wanting to have life and wanting to have a long life. Well, listen, how long do you want to live? I mean, Enoch, 365 years? Who wants to live longer than you can function in life? But when I recognized that death is really just the opposite coin of life, and to move there is just a choice in consciousness. There's nowhere to go but into that space of the eternal. So if we can die, if I can die before I die, then I can really live because I'm not afraid to go there. So nothing has to move me in and out of my walk but being with what is now, trusting that, letting go of the anxiety that my flesh or my ego would maintain, but to trust the divine expression. Jesus said to the man that was laying by the pool of Bethesda, pick up thy mat and walk. He didn't know he could walk. He had a consciousness that he was sick and inflicted. He literally picked it up and began to walk. My encouragement to you today is, as you walk in sync with the divine, to trust that space of knowing that, maybe you're very familiar with it. Maybe it's a way of being that's always been for you. Well, take it on at a greater dimension. Like, live fully used up. So there's nothing left. You can just die empty. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? And we know the illusion of life and death. Of course, we have to remind ourselves of these things, but you matter. And who you are in the world is a great contribution of the expression of the divine. And as we release the kingdom of heaven that is within us, everything we want, everything we need is already right here. So get your swag on as you walk in sync. Know when you're struggling in your body that your body is just realigning, it's recalibrating, because the Spirit is moving you into a higher dimension, a higher expression of being, and your body is calibrating to get and shift with that. Calibrating to get and shift. Now listen, it's great if you do a little morning exercise, stretch your back, stretch your legs, but when you're challenged, I'm discovering that the body is really just trying to catch up with the higher elevation of being, with the higher expression of the divine. Amen? Thank you for listening so intently. God bless you.